Welcome. In this video, we'll be covering verses 27 and 28 of Daniel chapter 11. And we are in the thick of the 6th Syrian war. If you haven't watched the previous video, please do so. So Antiochus has just defeated Ptolemy VI and conquered a large amount of Egypt. So what is the aftermath of this humiliating Ptolemaic loss? Well, Ptolemy VI and Antiochus IV get together and make a deal. We read about this in verse 27, quote, "The two kings, their minds bent on evil, shall sit at one table and exchange lies, but it shall not succeed, for there remains an end at the time appointed." End quote. So this verse is describing when these two men sit at one table and make a deal about what's going to happen next. Now, there are no historical sources which document this meeting between the two kings, but with a little bit of common sense, we can reconstruct what most likely happened. Antiochus IV, being the victor, gets to determine the terms of peace. He firstly strips Ptolemy VI of any real kingship, but Antiochus does set him up as a puppet king and even creates a new government center for him in the city of Memphis. Now, remember, during this time, there were three kings of Egypt. Ptolemy VI's brother and sister, Ptolemy VIII and Cleopatra II, are still kings and were not defeated by Antiochus. So when Ptolemy VIII and Cleopatra II hear that their brother has made a deal with Antiochus, they totally disavow him and establish another government in Alexandria in which they are kings. Now, let's really get stuck into verse 27. It says that Ptolemy VI and Antiochus IV shall sit at one table and exchange lies. So what do these lies refer to? Well, as a part of the deal, Antiochus IV tells Ptolemy that he wants to restore him to being the sole ruler of Egypt, meaning they need to go conquer his brother and sister in Alexandria so he can once again be king of Egypt. So let's imagine for a moment Antiochus IV saying something along these lines. "Let's go conquer Alexandria so I can restore you as king of Egypt." This is obviously a lie. Antiochus is the one who truly wants to be the ruler of Egypt, and he has absolutely no intention of installing Ptolemy as king. In response to this lie, Ptolemy agrees with the plan and promises Antiochus that he'll be loyal to him. So let's imagine Ptolemy saying something along these lines. "I trust you, Antiochus, and have no intention of going back to my brother and sister." This is yet again another lie. Ptolemy isn't silly. He knows he can't trust Antiochus, and therefore he knows he must try to return to his brother and sister in Alexandria for protection. Commenting on verse 27, Newsom writes the following, quote, "A face-to-face negotiation was arranged between Antiochus and Ptolemy VI, and a settlement agreed upon. The terms of the treaty are unknown, but they certainly involved some kind of political subordination of Ptolemy VI to Antiochus, and apparently Antiochus's support of Ptolemy VI in regaining sole kingship of Egypt. Ptolemy VI established a court at Memphis, and thus it's hardly surprising that both he and the treaty were repudiated by the regents and their supporters in Alexandria, who ousted him from the co-kingship." End quote. Campbell likewise writes on this verse, saying the following, quote, "Antiochus IV was able to reassert the Seleucid military as a successful force and essentially take control of parts of Egypt without officially annexing it, which would have upset the powers in Greece and Rome. The political powers in Egypt, however, would soon change his position. Government leaders in Egypt established a new government to overthrow the government of Ptolemy VI. Cleopatra II and her brother, the younger Ptolemy, became joint rulers and appealed to Rome for aid against Antiochus IV, Livy 44. End quote. So what have we learned from all of this information? Well, Ptolemy VIII and Cleopatra II are held up in Alexandria, and Antiochus IV, wanting full control of Egypt, begins besieging the city. Ptolemy VIII and Cleopatra II are obviously very worried, so what they do is they send officials to Rome to ask for help. And thankfully, we have a historical source for this event. It's found in Livy book 44, so let's give it a read. Quote, "Are you enjoying this video so far? Do you want to watch the rest of it? Well, the only way for you to do that is to become a patron. The full video is only available to patrons, so click the link in the description below and become a patron today."